Hello, this is Olu Asekun live. I'm not sure if you guys can see me. The weather is really bad here in Dallas, so we are trying to improvise. We are not able to get to the office today. The whole of Dallas is shut down, so we are trying to improvise. So I'm trying to do this through Facebook. This is not my area of specialization. Unfortunately, I'm not able to get help because I'm home. Um, I'm not sure if any of you can hear me. I have no idea how else this can work. Well, if you can hear me live, can somebody please say something so that at least I can be sure that I'm not here by myself? Waiting for somebody to say something. I think there's a problem with the audio. Again, this is Olu Asekun here. This is Dr. Olu Asekun here. Um, the weather in Dallas is extremely bad today. The storm is so bad. Everywhere there is ice on the road, so the entire Dallas is shut down. So we are unable to get to the office. So we are not able to do this live from the office. I'm trying the best way I can to go live through Facebook. Unfortunately, this is not my area of specialization, and I'm not able to receive help from here because I'm in my house and I'm not able to get the IT guys to assist. So I'm speaking. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me. If you can hear me, welcome to Dr. Olu Asekun Podcast. Uh, we are planned to discuss H1B today. Um, H1B is one of the ways that a prospective applicant or a foreigner can obtain work authorization here in the United States. Usually, it is meant for people with bachelor's degree, minimum of bachelor's degree, at least 4-year college. A 3-year program will not qualify for H1B because H1B is a specialized occupation and it requires a minimum of bachelor's degree. Usually, when someone attend higher institution, college or university in the United States, upon graduation, the student can apply for OPT, optional practical training, that will give the student an opportunity of employment for at least 1 year. It may be more than 1 year if the course of study is a STEM program. STEM means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So if it's a STEM course, the student may be able to get work authorization or employment authorization that is more than 1 year. But for any other profession, any other course, employment authorization is authorized for only 1 year. So usually within that 1 year, if the student is able to get an employer to sponsor the H1B, then the employer can petition on behalf of the student, and upon approval, that student will be able to work for the employer for up to 3 years, and it is also renewable. And usually within the course of the 3 years, if the employer is satisfied that the student's work is desirable, the employer can make the move to make the employment permanent. So if the employer decided to make the employment permanent, the employer will go through a process known as labor certification. Upon the approval of labor certification, the applicant, depending on the category, the applicant may be able to apply for green card. I said depending on the category because this is employment based, and because it is employment based, the credential of the student may be relevant to whether visa is available or not. Visa may be available if the student has a master's degree, and in some cases it may not be available if there is no master's degree. Again, I want to pause because I'm not even sure if anybody can hear me. I'm not able to get help today because the weather did not permit us. The weather did not permit us to go out today. So I'm not sure if anybody can hear me. We are discussing H1B here today. Can someone please say something? Let me be sure that I'm not here by myself. And if I'm not, well, let me just keep going. I'm not sure if anyone can hear me. Again, the weather did not permit us today to go to the office, so I'm doing this by myself at home. So I really have no idea what you guys can hear or what you cannot hear, what you can see or what you cannot see. This is not my area of specialization. I need the IT guys. Unfortunately, they are not able to come to the office because of the weather. There is ice all around town, so we are not able to drive in the ice. We are not able to go to the office, so I'm just trying as much as possible to improvise and then try my best to not waste today, especially considering the scheduling. I know some people must have put certain things aside to listen to this podcast. Unfortunately, the weather in Dallas is not friendly today. The weather is bad. We had planned to discuss H1B today. So I had intended to answer questions on H1B or even answer other questions. But again, the weather messed up. The entire Dallas is shut down. So we are not able to get to the office. The IT guys who normally help, they are not able to come. So I'm here by myself trying everything I know. Unfortunately, this is IT is not my area. So just bear with me for today. Hopefully it will be better. And again, this is an eye opener. So maybe going forward, we make provision for mobile streaming. So talking about H1B, H1B enables someone with a bachelor degree, with a 4-year degree, to apply for employment here in the United States and then get work authorization. If the applicant attended higher institution here in the United States, or even attended college or university here in the United States, the applicant may be eligible for H1B. However, an applicant for H1B will need an employer to petition on behalf of the student or the prospective applicant or foreigner, as the case may be. So if the employer petitions for the applicant and the petition is approved, the applicant can work for the employer for up to 3 years. It is also renewable. It is also renewable for another 3 years, maximum of 6 years. And in some limited circumstances, someone can be on H1B for more than 6 years, for upward of 6 years. In such a situation, if the applicant can demonstrate that a labor certification application or a I-140 application, I-140 is immigrant petition for alien worker. Throughout the course of this conversation, I will be using the word alien. Alien simply means foreigner. Aliens simply means foreigner. So I-140 is immigrant petition for alien worker. So if the employer is satisfied with the applicant's performance, the H1B is temporary, it's not permanent, it is temporary. It is only valid for 3 years, and it could be extended for another 3 years, a maximum of 6 years. But in some limited situation, it could be extended beyond 6 years. If the applicant can demonstrate that an immigrant petition for alien worker or an application for labor certification has been pending on behalf of the applicant, on behalf of the foreigner, or on behalf of the alien for more than 1 year. It may be because the alien is waiting for visa to become available, because employment-based categories, they usually have numerical limits, annual numerical limit. There is a limit to the number of petitions that could be approved annually. So where the annual limit has been reached, but the applicant has a pending application, H1B could be extended in increment of 1 year until whenever visa becomes available. That means whenever they get to the term of that applicant. So in limited situations, it could be extended beyond the 6 year. But the applicant will need an employer, a US employer, to petition for the applicant. Now, from previous questions that I've received, I know that some people may be asking, what exactly does an employer need to have in order to be able to sponsor H1B petition? Pretty simple. Because of the situation today, I'm not sure if I will be able to do question and answer, because I'm not even sure if anybody can hear me. I can't hear any response to my utterances since I started. So definitely we may not be able to do question and answer today. But if you have questions on this H1B, please, I will address it next week by God's grace. Hopefully we'll be able to do it through our studio then. We'll be able to be in the office. I will address it next week. So right now, I'm just going to keep going on the H1B. Now, For an employer to sponsor an applicant for H1B, one, the employer must be in a business that is related to what the applicant studied. In other words, whatever the course of study that the applicant went through at the college must be similar to the nature of the business of the employer. For example, I am a lawyer. We have a law office. So if my law office decided to sponsor H1B on behalf of an applicant, that applicant must have studied something that is relevant to what a law office does. In other words, the person could be a lawyer. Of course, if the profession requires a license, the applicant must possess the license before H1B could be approved. So, if my law office decided to sponsor H1B on behalf of a lawyer, the lawyer must have state license. At least the lawyer must have been licensed in at least one state in order to get the H1B approved. So, a lawyer who went through law school but is yet to be licensed by any state in the United States will not qualify for the purpose of the H1B. Again, if the profession requires certification, board certification, the applicant must have that board certification. The employer and the applicant must be in the same line of business. Again, a law office, for example, cannot petition for a doctor. There is nothing that a doctor will claim to be relevant to a law practice. So, immigration will not approve any such application. However, I need to state it very clearly. The fact that my office is a law office does not mean that only lawyers could be eligible for H1B. For as long as whatever the applicant studied is relevant to the business, the applicant may still be eligible for H1B. For example, maybe somebody who studied accounting, depending on how big the law office is. Some law offices may require the services of an accountant. So, in such a situation, even though it's a law office, even though the applicant studied accounting, the law office may still be able to petition for the applicant for as long as there is sufficient work, there is sufficient specific duties that an accountant can do in the law office. Yes, it could be approved. Another example, somebody who studied IT, maybe database administration, information technology, or other aspect of information technology, it may be relevant to what we do in the law office. So for as long as we are able to establish that it is relevant, the H1B application will still be approved. Now, having said that, it is important to point out that H1B is not available throughout the year. H1B is a seasonal form of application. The reason is this: the number of applications that immigration can approve annually, H1B application, is limited to 65,000 applications for the entire United States. So in other words, as soon as they reach the 65,000 mark, that is it, they close it for the year. So every employer desiring to hire an H1B applicant will have to wait until the following year. However, there are few exceptions to the 65-year limit. For applicants who went to graduate degree here in the United States, who went to graduate school here in the United States, that is, applicants with a master's degree from an American university, there is an extra 20,000 allocation specifically meant for applicants who went to American universities to obtain master's degree. So there are 20,000 slot set aside for those applicants. And the way it works is that usually for those applicants who obtain master's degree from an American university, immigration will first allotted the 20,000. So if there are other applicants who have master's degree from an American university, those remaining applicants will be added to the general population, which is the 65,000, and then immigration will now ballot the 65,000. As soon as they get to the 65,000, that is it. Now, I use the word ballot, and I need to explain that. Ballot in that, in the past years, maybe 2005, 2006, 2007, and so on, the applications are treated on a first come. The applications used to be treated on a first come, first served basis. That was because the number of applications at that time was less than 65,000. So they used to treat it on a first come, first served basis. So whenever they get to the 65,000 slot, that is when they used to stop. However, in recent years, because even on the first day that the application for H1B is opened, sometimes immigration receive over 100,000 applications on the first day. So that has necessitated the need for balloting, because now what they do is they will receive those applications and then they will ballot. Even if they receive 200,000 applications, if they receive 300,000 applications, or they receive 100,000 applications, they will put all of them together. They will first select those of students, those of applicants who have a master's degree from an American university. If they are more than 20,000, they will ballot again for that category of classes. If they ballot and they take out the 20,000, the remaining ones will be added to the general platform. Now they will now ballot again and take out 65,000, and anyone that is not selected will be returned to the petitioner. They will be returned to the employer, the petitioning employer. Again, in recent years, since the past administration, since Donald Trump administration, they also introduced another interesting thing to H1B processing, which is called registration. So nowadays, employer who desire or who is intending to sponsor anyone for H1B status will first need to register with immigration. Registration is usually open for certain period, and I believe registration for this year, fiscal year 2024, is usually between February and March of every year. So if there is any employer that is contemplating filing H1B on behalf of any student or on behalf of any applicant, this is actually the registration season. So the employer will first need to register with USCIS. So upon registration, it is only after that they can submit H1B application on behalf of an applicant. So after the deadline for the registration, after the deadline for the submission of application, then immigration will now select initial 20,000 from applicant with master's degree from an American university, and subsequently the 65,000 from the general populace. So any application that is not selected will be returned to the employer. Now, again, there is something that I need to clarify. When we are talking about immigration or the United States government, they do not use January to December as their fiscal year. immigration fiscal year or the United States fiscal year usually start from 1st of October and end on 30th of September. So the fiscal year starts from 1st of October and ends on 30th of September. So if we are talking of H1B at this time, we are actually talking of H1B for fiscal year 2024. So fiscal year 2024 starts from 1st of October 2023. So any employer that desires to sponsor a student or sponsor an applicant for H1B must do it for the fiscal year 2024. And like I said, the registration season is now. That is one of the reasons why we decided to address the issue of H1B today, because the registration season is now. You cannot do the registration in April, you cannot do the registration in May, you cannot do the registration in June, July, August, September. No, the registration season is now. So, if the employer intends to sponsor any employee, any student, any applicant for H1B, they must do so now for fiscal year 2024. Now, that brings up another issue, and the issue of maintaining status. So, any applicant who intends to benefit from H1B for fiscal year 2024 must be maintaining legal status between now and October 1st, 2024, assuming that the applicant is planning to do what we call change of status. That applicant must be maintaining legal status. Now, H1B does not necessarily have to be inside the US. H1B could be submitted on behalf of an applicant who is outside the US. So for such applicants who are outside the US, the need to be in status will not be relevant. That is only relevant for applicants who are physically present in the United States. To maintain legal status is a mandatory requirement for all employment-based applications. So applicants must be in status at all times. Because there is no opportunity to ask questions today, I'm going to be asking questions myself and be answering it. At least I will try to the best of my knowledge. Now, if a student has already graduated, let's say, or is going to graduate, let's say the student is going to graduate this summer of 2023. That will be anytime from May of 2023. Now, the applicant, especially those who are on student status, such applicant must ensure that he or she apply for OPT, optional practical training, before graduation. You cannot apply for OPT after graduation, it will be denied. So you have to apply for OPT before graduation. So if you apply for OPT and it is approved, such an applicant will apparently be in status until next year, because OPT will be approved for at least 1 year at the minimum. So such an applicant will be maintaining legal status by having employment authorization, which the applicant can work with until 1st of October when the H1 kicks in, if the applicant is selected. Now, for those who are not in student, let's say you are on any other non-immigrant status, and your non-immigrant status is going to expire before 1st October 2023, when H1B for fiscal year 2024 kicks off. Such an applicant should ensure that you apply for an extension of your status or a change of status to something temporary to keep you in legal status. You cannot afford to be out of status. Even if the H1B is approved and you are not in status by October 1st, between now and October 1st, it will still be revoked. But it is even unlikely that immigration will approve it if you cannot show proof that you'll be maintaining legal status between now and October 1st. Let me think of any other question that someone may be asking. I've stated that the H1B must be relevant to what the employer is doing. So if you studied, if you are in the medical line, you cannot get an employer in legal field to petition for you because your job will not be relevant to what they do in a law office. I've stated that H1B is also seasonal, which means that it is not something that you can apply for throughout the year. So this is just something that is seasonal. This is the season for H1B intending employers to register with USCIS. This is the registration season, and this is the H1B season, and that is why we have decided to address H1B today. What can I think of again about H1B? I believe I've tried my best to address the issue of H1B. Again, the weather here in Dallas is bad today, so I'm using my cell phone to go live. So as you can see, I set up the cell phone to be able to see myself, to show myself live. So I'm not able to see any type or email or question in the chat box. I'm not able to hear anybody. I'm not even sure if listeners are hearing me right now. I know I'm live. I hope everybody could hear me. If not, well, we will do better next week. This is not intentional. It is the weather. We have no control over the weather. The entire Dallas is shut down. DFW International Airport, I heard in the news today that over 60% of flights were cancelled. The roads have ice on the road, so we cannot drive. So I have no access to the studio. I have no access to my office. I have no access to my IT guys to help. So I'm doing the best I can in the circumstances. Okay, let me try to get up and see if I can. Maybe I'll be able to read one or two chats. For those who send questions on chat, let me attempt to see